More high drama on Capitol Hill today as Attorney General Jeff Sessions testified under oath before the Senate Intelligence Committee and pushed back hard against any suggestion he was colluding with the Russians.
Let me state this clearly, colleagues. I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States. Further, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign. I was your colleague in this body for 20 years, at least some of you, and and the suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process is an appalling and detestable lie.
After a series of combative accusations from Democrats on the panel, Republican Senator Tom Cotton came to Sessions' defense by mocking their line of questioning.
Do you like spy fiction? John Le Carre, Daniel Silva, Jason Matthews?
Yeah, Alan first. David Ignatius. Just finished Ignatius's book.
Do you like Jason Bourne or James Bond movies?
No. Yes. I do.
Have you ever, in any of these fantastical situations, heard of a plot line so ridiculous that a sitting United States senator and an ambassador of a foreign government colluded at an open setting with hundreds of other people to pull off the greatest caper in the history of espionage?
Thank you for saying that, Senator Cotton. It's just like through the looking glass. I mean, what is this?
All right, so we're going to take it on the table here. Jesse, I thought there was a fabulous part of the hearing for Attorney General Sessions and then one that was sort of muddled, but I think the most important one was the one that he nailed, the first soundbite that we showed, in which he was the first really who had been accused of this collusion and the sort of like whispering around town in Washington, D.C. to come out and say, how dare you question my patriotism? You've known me. I've worked here. I've dedicated my life to public service, so how dare you? I thought that was the best part.
It was a great part. The Democrats are trying to paint Jeff Sessions out to be a traitor. The man is not a traitor. He's a patriot. He was working in the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was part of the Department of Justice. He's from Alabama. He's Trump's Attorney General. This guy's as red-blooded American as you can possibly get. There's no way he would then try to undermine our constitutional republic in broad daylight with a foreign power. It doesn't make sense. Today was just another nail in the coffin for the Russia hoax. No one landed any punches on this guy. It was a lot of innuendo, not a lot of facts. And the reason they keep on shifting targets is because they keep whiffing. First they start with Trump. Then they go to Jared Kushner. Then they try to make a thing out of Comey. Now it's Sessions, and they keep coming up empty-handed. The facts are this guy, Jeff Sessions, did not meet as a surrogate with any Russian officials. He met as a senator twice last year. Once was just after a speech he gave at the RNC in Cleveland with a lot of other people, and then once he had a meeting in his office, and it was about the Ukraine invasion.
Right.
He's not trying to cook up anything. And after about 7 or 8 months, the Senate Intelligence Committee has found zero evidence of any collusion between Trump campaign officials and the Russians. So I don't know where the evidence is. It does not exist. The Obama Director of National Intelligence, Obama's CIA director, now the Attorney General say there is no evidence of collusion. There is evidence of collusion between the Democrats and the media, but that's besides the point.
It was interesting, Kimberly, that I was going to say Senator Sessions, but Attorney General Sessions started his testimony by talking about Russian interference and saying it is real, it is a problem. And we had the story today that said that there was an attempt on at least 39 states. So he is actually openly saying, like, we recognize that we have a problem here, but the collusion part, that is not something that I did.
Right. I thought this was very good. You know, sad that we're at this point where we have to waste taxpayer dollars. That's appalling and detestable because they deserve better of the time of the people on Capitol Hill, of their senators, of their attorney general, to be able to focus on issues that are real, not conjured up, genie out of a bottle, KGB, Russian fantasy the likes of which you would read about in a novel. And so I like Tom Cotton's point. And I like the fact that the Attorney General Sessions was able to stand up for himself. Enough is enough already. When people say, well, he was aggressive, good for him. If people were making, false and spurious allegations against you, impugning your character and integrity when he has served with, patriotism for 35 years this country, he deserves better, and so do the American people. I'm glad he stood up for himself. He answered the questions. He's not afraid of the truth, and he was honest when he said that we know that the Russians want to try to interfere. But that does not mean that there was any collusion. And believe me, there's even Democrats like Schiff saying there's no evidence of this. There is no there. So are they going to conjure up something? Because we had Comey testify too. And up until the point until that he was dismissed, there was no evidence to substantiate any of this. Enough already of the witch hunt.
A credible witness today to you, Greg? He's calm, under pressure, he's cool, collected, genuine.
He's like a wingless bird, unflappable. Don't let his elfish qualities fool you.
Just like you.
Yes, exactly. I am a woodland creature like himself. He's scrappy. Very scrappy. When you get on him, he comes back and he fights. But the one thing we learned today is something that we've always learned, and we've learned since we were children. The Russians like to mess with us. That is a one-sided problem that we have to deal with. There was no collusion. What is happening is we have them bothering us. This is what I like to call a nothing Stroganoff. A little Russian there. But I don't get the Democrats' definition of a meeting. It's like, so you're in the same hotel. So technically, I've met with a lot of interesting people. Lou, Dobbs. But anyway, if you get outside of the media bubble, if you get out of the political bubble, no one gives a damn.
You're right.
I'm watching this, and I'm trying to take myself out of my job, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this and I go, I don't give a crap, and I can't believe anybody actually cares about this. We know how the world works. People know how the world works. There are spies. There are people that always try to tinker with the government or tinker with your elections. We've done that. They do that. We understand it. So we're watching this, we're going so meanwhile, North Korea is basically executing an American citizen. ISIS we're fighting ISIS over here. We got all these horrible things going on, and we are spending all of our time on a conversation on what was talked about between two men.
In a passing reference at a reception.
Exactly. That is what this is about.
And yet, the Democrats were not satisfied with the hearing today. They say there are going to be more. And tonight I see, Juan, that several senators, including Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, are calling for the resignation of Jeff Sessions, saying that he misled the committee. Do you think that will stick?
Oh, I think it'll stick among Democrats, if that's what you're asking. Do I think that it will result in Sessions leaving office? No. Is that
so why do they? Yeah. So then why do they overplay their hand on something like that?
They want to run for president.
No, I don't think they're overplaying their hands. Let's just stop for a second and look back. A week ago, we learned that President Trump wanted Sessions to resign. He was mad at him for having recused himself from the investigation to Russian interference in the 2016 election. And then the question was, well, why did Sessions recuse himself if the president hadn't encouraged him to do so? And it was unclear. And then we heard from the former FBI director, Jim Comey, that there was more. There was more that somehow not publicly known about Sessions' involvement with the Russians that led him to recuse himself. So there were some outstanding questions, Dana.
He called BS on that today.
Well, can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So what happened today is that you hear the Attorney General say, no, there's nothing secret here. I don't have any secrets. I don't know what Comey's talking about, basically, he said. But then he goes on and refuses to discuss conversations he's had with the president. So you get people. He says to Kamala Harris, slow down, slow down. You're making me nervous. I don't want to speak so quickly. I can't respond to these questions so quickly. You get Senator Ron Wyden. You get Senator Martin Heinrich. All of them saying, gee, you're stonewalling. This is what happened with Dan Coates. This is what happened with Mike Rogers, DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, Director of National Security. You guys don't want to talk about what you're saying.
Wait. Kamala Harris didn't want him to answer the question. Right. She had this great strategy where she would ask a question, then cut him off at the point where it sounds like he's saying something else. It's very clever, but after a while you realize how hackneyed it was. And as for Wyden, I mean, Sessions was very generous to Wyden because he handed his ass to him.
I don't think he handed his ass.
Oh, yes,
that goes back to the idea that The Democrats right now feel like Sessions is not being responsive, that if he had something to say it. Let's get it out of here.
You know what, though?
But you know what? When he testified, when he was being confirmed and didn't reveal the additional meeting, that really opened the door. That made him more vulnerable to these attacks from the Democrats.
Kimberly, real quick, and then we'll...
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's like, you know, the people like Senator Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren who are auditioning. These are auditions, Democratic open auditions to lead the Democratic Party. So they're playing foosball with anybody that's associated with President Trump, like Sessions, and trying to take whacks at him and see to make a big show. I know. I mean, this is what happens. I worked with her at the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, and she ended up being head DA there.
And this is what they do. And just like Juan mentioned, Democrats hurled accusations against Sessions earlier. Stonewalling, obstruction. Let's play a little bit of that sound.
I believe the American people have had it with stonewalling.
Senator Wyden, I am not stonewalling.
You're not answering questions. You're impeding this investigation.
Senator, I'm protecting the president's constitutional right by not giving it away before he has a chance to review it. And
Sir, I have just a few.
Will you let me qualify it? If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
I'm not.
So the stonewalling charge seems to be the one thing Democrats have come away with this hearing from. My question to you is, Juan, if you're a cabinet member and you have a conversation with the president and then you get called into a hearing and you just have to say whatever you talk to the president about, how's the president going to ever trust any cabinet official he brings into the Oval?
Well, the president has the right to invoke executive privilege. He has not done it. But to your point, Jesse, I really am responsive to it because I think, as I was reading about it today, people describe it as a gray area. Is it the case that the Congress can say to someone with no executive privilege applicable here, say, tell us what you said to the president? Or is it the case that the official who is representing the president can say, well, I want to preserve his right to exercise executive privilege?
But I think out of deference to the confidentiality and the privacy of these communications, you want to give the president the benefit of the doubt so he can invoke executive privilege later on if need be, right, Kimberly?
Yes, absolutely. This is nothing that's illegal. It's constitutional. It makes sense. And so good for, Attorney General Sessions for standing up and doing the right thing and putting his foot down. I mean, he is the highest-ranking law enforcement, officer in the country by being the head of the Attorney General's office. He knows what he's doing. He's highly capable and qualified, and he was on point today. So big rumors of a breakup between Sessions and President Trump. Don't believe it.
I think the Democrats are being a little hypocritical here, Greg, because when officials were testifying against, the Fast and Furious scandal or the IRS or Benghazi or the Hillary Clinton email investigation, where there was shredding of documents, so there was pleading of the Fifth, invoking executive privilege. The Democrats weren't saying that was obstruction. They were okay with that.
Well, we have to be fair. The hypocrisy then becomes a two-way street because now we're saying it's okay, but back then we were saying it wasn't. So he
didn't take the Fifth, though, or shred any documents.
And also nobody died from this. The Benghazi thing, we are still learning. We still haven't learned the lesson of Benghazi, which is when you don't blame the evil for evil, you keep getting evil.
Right.
The lesson from Benghazi is Orlando, is Manchester, is the London Bridge. Whenever you don't say what caused terror, you get more terror.
Bernardino.
But you know what? The thing is, you notice they are shifting from collusion to obstruction, and I'm wondering what's next will probably be cyberbullying. I'm not sure where they're going to go. But there was way more collusion under President Obama. And guess what? I stole that from Juan. Guess what? It was on tape. Obama told the outgoing Russian president that, I'll have more flexibility after the election. That was actually on tape.
Greg makes a great point, Dana.
Run that again.
They shift the narrative when they keep not hitting their target. They go from target to target. They go from charge to charge, and nothing's sticking.
On the collusion part, and I hope that obviously, Bob Mueller has an investigation, and that will play out, and hopefully it wraps up soon so that America can move on. And at that point, if it still bears out that there is no evidence of collusion, then I hope the Democrats can accept that. We have a much bigger problem, and that is, as a country, when we have an election coming in just 3.5 short years, that one has to be full of integrity, and so we have to do something now in order to protect ourselves in all of the states, and that's a huge undertaking that will require everybody working together on that front.
Outsource it.
to robots, hopefully.
Yes, robots will run it.
That's are the answer.
And
absolutely.
they should actually run for office.
Absolutely.
Dana's saying, yeah, there's 39 states or something like that were allegedly hacked by Russians, but that never was really brought up by Democrats at the hearing. They were focused more on Trump.
Well, I don't think that knowledge was available until recently.
Well, it was available this morning, and actually Attorney General Sessions led with it in his opening statement.
Correct. That's what you said. But I just wanted to make mention of the fact that there was also a question about if Sessions recused himself, then how did he become involved in the firing of Jim Comey?
Because he says the firing wasn't strictly about Russia. It was about his performance handling the Hillary Clinton email investigation and some of the other things.
But in follow-up questions, he did. That is probably where he had the most difficult time, basically being a little bit muddled because he was saying that. And at one point, he also says, we'll just let the president's words stand. And the president had changed the explanation when he gave that interview to Lester Holt.
Right. At one point, he says, I'm based the firing on what Rod Rosenstein wrote. And then he says, well, you know, maybe it's the case, according to Sessions today, that there were discussions with Rosenstein before and that Rosenstein then knew what to, I mean, it's like, and then, of course, what the president says to Lester Holt is it's because of the Russians. So it's kind of confusing, but I think people wanted to understand. If you accuse yourself from the Russia investigation, how'd you get involved in the firing of Jim Comey?
He recused himself because of the DOJ regulations that require him to do so because he was a campaign advisor. But that still leads to the question, how did he get involved then with the firing of the FBI director after he recused himself?
Because he said it had to do with his performance regarding the Hillary Clinton email investigation. And he overstepped his bounds with Loretta Lynch.
Who did? I mean, Comey.
Comey did.
But he says that he never spoke to Comey about that Comey, as Comey testified, his boss never gave him any indication there was any problem with the FBI.
Comey also claimed that Sessions never gave him a heads up about this whole deal, and then Sessions came out and says, I have the email to prove it. So I don't think Comey came out looking that great in this hearing either.
It's all about, I mean, this is amazing. There's got to be 200 million Americans sitting there going like, this is all about a conversation. Nobody died. This is about a conversation. Yes. It's about a party trying to prevent another party from succeeding in its agenda.
That's it.
And the media spends 85% of their time. They're like those cats chasing laser pointers. That's all this is. Or their paws are hitting an iPad because there's an image there. But nobody gives a damn.
You know that the laser pointer thing creates obsessive compulsive disorder in cats?
I figured that out.
And Greg.
or epileptic seizures. But let me just say, there's an alternative view, Gregory.
Okay.
The alternative view is that, in fact, if you compromise the integrity of our elections.
Oh, I agree.
I think Dana was touching on it.
No, I agree.
That's not good, Greg.
No, I agree. In fact, last year when we first were stumbling onto this story, I was the loudest screamer about Russian interference.
Well, that's why it's not cat paws. I mean, it's serious business.
No, but now it's cat paws.
The collusion piece is
a cat paw. Well, I think we can come up with it's a cat paw. They're like, and there's nothing there. It's an iPad.
They want catnip. They want President Trump.
There's nothing there we know about in an ongoing investigation.
Well, we can say that till the day we die.
No. I hope that Bob Mueller gets this done
Maybe they all figured it out and something miraculously pops up after Comey's been fired and in between the time when Mueller's taken over. I mean, I don't think so.